In this video, we're going to give our player a visual reward when completing the level using particle effects and then a small coroutine to delay the switch to the next level. Let's start by creating a particle effect. But before we create them, let's quickly talk about what particle effects actually are. Particle effects are small visual effects made up of lots of tiny pieces called particles. They're often used for things like explosions, smokes, or magic effects. In our case, we're going to use them to give the player a visual reward when completing the level. So let's start by going to our hierarchy, right-clicking, go to Effects, and click Particle System. You can already see we have a particle system on screen now. I will just move it so it aligns with where our end goal of the level is. Unity gives us this default particle system right away, and now we can start shaping it into the kind of effect we want. You can see in the inspector we have a lot of different sections, and each of these sections contain their own separate settings. And you can click on it once to expand the section, and you can click on it once again to collapse it. First off, I'm going to change the duration. Duration controls how long the particle system runs before it finishes. Since this is just a quick win effect, I don't want it to last too long, so I'm going to change it to 2. At a later point, we will also turn looping off, but you can see this stops the particle effect, and now we won't be able to visualize what's happening on screen anymore. So for now, I will keep looping ticked and restart our particle system, but just make a mental note of that we want to untick this box in the future. Next, I'm changing the starting lifetime. Shorter lifetime makes the effect feel quicker, while longer lifetime makes the particles hang around for longer. So I will change this to 1. I'm also going to change the starting speed. This controls how fast the particles move when they spawn. If the speed is too low, the effect can feel really weak, but if it's too high, it can feel a bit chaotic. And for my case, I want kind of a quick burst, so I'm going to set it to 25. Since this is a 2D game, we also want to change our gravity source from 3D physics to 2D physics. Next, I will change the starting color. I think for mine I want some kind of a yellow, gold, orangey. And right now the particle effects are a bit too big for my taste, so I'm going to change the starting size from 1 to 0.2. Next, I'm going to go into my emission section. This section controls how many particles are spawned. I'm going to add a burst. A burst means Unity spawns a bunch of particles all at once. That's exactly what I want for my level, because it should feel like one quick pop instead of a continuous spray. So I'm going to hit the plus sign, and in our preview you can see some sort of burst here like a shotgun spray. But right now, all of our particle effects are just blowing straight up into the air, and that's not what I want for my particle effect. So I'm going to collapse the emission section and go to the shape section. Right now our shape is cone, but I think I would like to change my shape to a sphere to make it go more around the end goal instead of just spraying up in the air. And now when we play it, you can see this burst kind of explosion. Now the final thing I want to do is untick this looping box, and I think I'll also change my duration from 2 to 0.5. Now when I play my particle effect, I get this nice burst explosion. Now that my particle effect is done, I would like to rename it to Complete Level Effect. And I will go into my prefabs folder and drag it in here to make my particle effect a prefab, which I can use for other levels. I will then delete it from my hierarchy. I will then head into my win sequence script. And first I would like a field for my particle effects. So I will create a serialized field, a private game object, and I will name it win particles. I then want to instantiate it when my player collides with the golden trophy. So I will type instantiate, and I want to instantiate my win particles at the transform.position using the quaternion.identity. So let's just break down this line. We use the instantiate method, which is a built-in Unity method to instantiate game objects at a certain point in the scene. We are instantiating our win particle effects. We are doing it at the transform.position, so the position of the game object which this script is attached to, the game object of course being our golden trophy, and we are doing it using quaternion identity, which just keeps the default rotation of our game object. So since our game object has no rotation on it, it just keeps the rotation to 0, so basically preventing our particle effects from starting to rotate. And back in Unity, we need to go to our goal game object, and you can see now we have a win particles field. So I'm just going to lock the inspector window. I'm going to go to my prefabs, find my win particle effect, and drag it into here, unlock the inspector again. And now our particle effects should be displayed correctly when we're colliding with the goal. But you see, when I am colliding with the goal, we get the quick first second or first frame of the particle effect, and then we're switching to the next level. The reason this happens is because we instantiate our particle effect, and then instantly we're loading the next scene. So between these two sections, we need a delay. To create a delay in Unity, you use what is called coroutines. A coroutine is a way to run code over time instead of all at once. In a normal method, everything happens immediately from top to bottom, but in a coroutine, we can pause, wait, and then continue. That's really useful for things like delays, animations, timers, and small sequences like this. And for our coroutine, we will need to create a new method. So I'm going to type private, and for the return type, I'm using the I enumerator, and generally, you use this return type for all coroutines. It's also good practice that when you name your coroutine methods, that the name contains the word routine in it. So for my method, I'm going to name it win routine. And it's actually inside of this method that we want to load our next scene. So I'm going to cut this part out and paste it inside here. And this is where we want our delay. And in a coroutine, to give a delay, you want to use the yield return new wait for seconds. And as a parameter, it takes in a float, which is the wait time in seconds. I think 2 seconds will be all right, so I will type 2f. So let's just break down this line. It basically pauses the coroutine for the number of seconds which we've specified. In our case, this is 2. So in our onTrigger enter, we can now call our coroutine. Normally to call the method, you would just type the name of the method, then parentheses, and a semicolon. But this won't work, as we need to specifically start the coroutine. So what we're going to do instead is type start coroutine, and then inside parentheses, we're going to type the name of our method. So win routine, and then an extra set of parentheses, and then a semicolon. So now if the player collides with our golden trophy, we instantiate our win particles, and then we're calling this method, where firstly we are waiting 2 seconds, and then we're loading the next scene. And now back in our game, when we hit the end goal, the particle effect is played, a small delay, and then we switch to the next level. Well done on this video. In the next video, we'll start to make our game feel more alive by adding music and sounds. Until then, thank you for watching, like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.